Welcome back. In this video, we are going to implement the responsive navbar for our application, and this is where we left. So if you are watching this video for the first time, we've worked on the navbar in the previous video, so you can go back and watch how we created this navbar. So in this video, we are finished up with the drawer to make it more responsive. So as it stands right now, when I reduce the screen size, you can see that it's not responsive, right? But for the final one, as soon as it reaches some breakpoint, you see that we have the drawer. So, and I can move around with it. All right, cool. So how are you going to implement it? Let me show you how we're going to do it. Cool. So before we get started, I want to show you the techniques we are going to use. We are going to use a hook or API called use media query. In Material UI, we can implement responsive design in a couple of ways, and we've talked about the SX property and then the grid system. The other one is called the use media query. So let's search for use media query, and let's briefly see how it works. So use media query, this is a CSS media query hook for React. It listens for matches to a CSS media query. Cool. It allows the rendering of component based on whether the query matches or not. So in short, the use media query returns true or false based on the breakpoints of our application. So use media query, if you pass in the breakpoint, so let me bring this one a little bit of it. So if you check for the breakpoint in Material UI, you could see that we have the breakpoint, right? The extra small, small, medium. So if you pass this value to use media query, okay, and if the browser reaches that point, it's going to return true. So let's look at the example here. You see that they provided match. So use media query determine whether the current size of your browser is at this point, is at the weight of 600 pixels. If it is that, it will return true. So we are going to say that, hey, our browser, if our application reaches some breakpoint, we are going to pass in here. If it reaches, this one return true. And if it is true, it means that we are on a smaller screen. Therefore, we can remove this navbar here and then place in our drawer, right? So let's first of all implement the drawer before we talk about the implementation. So let's also search for drawer and let's see how it's being used or implemented. So let's go down. We have a couple of ways, whether I want to be at the left, right, top, or bottom of the page, depending how you want it. Okay, and we have a couple of styles here. I'm going to show you the simplest way, and you can implement other ones by yourself. So first of all, let's go back to the project structure here. This is what we've worked on the previous video. So inside the SRC component, and I'm inside the navbar, right? So let me create one file and call this one. Let me call this file as drawer component. So drawer component. Cool. .js, and let's scaffold the component. All right, cool. So let's check the documentation. So let's open this code and you see that it looks more scary. You see that? So let me show you how I'm gonna do it in the simplest way. Cool. So first thing first is let's bring in the component called drawer. So let's require the component here called drawer. Alright, so I don't want it to be, I want React to be at the top and the rest as that. So let me wrap this one with a drawer. Okay, and with this being in place, with this line of code being in place, let's just provide some typography inside. Typography, and let's call this one home. Alright, so let me require the typography here as that. And let's go ahead and render this component, right? So we can go to the navbar. That is where we want to display that. So let's require the let me bring some space here and call this one drawer component. Drawer component. Okay, so let's render this one in this component here. So let's provide some fragment so that I also want to render that drawer like that. Okay, so let me place it here before as my drawer component. And if I do that, let's see the effect now. Where is it? This one. Yeah, right now I don't see any effect because we're not telling it to open, right? So if you go back to drawer component and then you provide, let's say, open to true. Okay, to true. Let's see what automatically we have is being open. You see, that is crazy simple way of doing it. So what has left is we need to add up our content inside that drawer and just pass in state and then click on that and then remove it. So because of that, I want to use some list item. So we can use even typography here as a link, or I want to have more styling here. So I'm going to use the list component. So we can, is there a must that you should use list component, right? You can see here, I want to have this styling, that repo effect. When I click on it, you see that I have that. And this one is from the list component and list item. So let's go back to code and then bring in the list, right? We have the list required, the list, and also, sorry guys, list, and you also require, also want the list item here. List item here. Okay, and you also want some list item icon. All these are just for the list item to make it more, have the repo effect. All right, so now let's remove this one. So I want to have one list item here, so I'll call this one list, and inside the list I want to provide the list item. All right, is that for that, and inside that this item I want to have that repo effect. So I'm going to use the list item icon the same way as we did for the icon button, and inside here I can now add my list item text. List item text. All right, so here let's call this one main. So we don't have the list item text here, so let me import it here. So let me save this one. And now you see I had that kind of stylish way, right? So now I want to have some style that like a button when I click on that. So this, list item, it takes a couple of props. So if you look at documentation, if you provide button, it means this one going to be like a clickable way. You see that? You see now I have that repo effect. Now if you want to provide divide, it means that we have that division below it. So let me copy this one, this list item here. This is a parent, and this list item here a couple of times. Let me call this one 3 times here, and let me change this one to women here, and then this one to, let's say, categories, depending on how you want to place it. Okay, you see that I want to have some spacing, so underline. So for each of this list item here, I will provide divider as a prop. So all these props, you can read more about the API for the list item in the documentation. So let me provide divider for each. So now I have the divider being as that. So there is a simple one you implement, right? So here the logic is that I want to, when I click on this one, I want to toggle this one, the true to false. So therefore I need to manage state here. And here for the anchor, we can provide some direction. So when you say that anchor here, when we say that it should move to right or bottom here, I'm going to have been at the bottom of the page, or at the top or right top here, it's going to be at the top of the page as that. Cool. So I want it to be at the right, depending how you want it. Alright, it's being at the right. So now it's about managing the state. Cool. So first of all, let's go back to, let's manage state here. So let me remove the typography here. But the logic here is that because we are calling this component inside the navbar, we need to pass the function to toggle the whether it should display or not, right? So you need to pass that state from that. That's a prop drilling, but this one just like one level, so it's okay. So here, let's create a state here. Make sure you are inside your navbar because you want to pass in true or false to this component, right? So let me remove this one, and then let me come up here, one more state, and let me call this one. The state I'm going to manage here is whether it's open or not, right? So only one state. So use state here, and then I will just make sure, say that is it open or open menu, or set open drawer. Okay, that one makes more sensible here. So here set open drawer, and by default is, let me make it true here. Cool. So next I can pass these two function and the value to this component, right? So let's pass that. So for this one is equal to open drawer, and then the function is also equal to the same as that, set open drawer. So now inside the drawer component I can destructure that here and place inside. So now this one gonna be the value open here, like that. So with this one is open, but when I change it inside my navbar and change to false, you see that it's gone. So now I want to have a button here. When I click on the button here, it should open the drawer, right? Or when the screen reaches some point, I want to remove this one and bring in that. That is why we are going to use the use media query as I explained in the previous, as explained earlier. So let's bring in the use media query, and I'll show you how is that. To use media query determine the screen size at the current of our page, meaning that at the time, let me show you one more time. Right now we are on this page, right? So if you pass in the breakpoint, that use media query will show you that, hey, this breakpoint has been reached, therefore we can display the drawer, right? So here let's bring in the use media query, and it's from, let me show you. Yes, we have it here as that use media query. So let's create, because it's a hook, you need to call it inside your component, right? Use media query here, and it's pretty easy to implement, right? So let's call this one. Now I have a couple of states here, so let me call it here const, and let me call this one match. Const match is matches, right? Is equal to use media query. So for this one, if you pass in the breakpoint, whether it's small, meaning small breakpoint, or large. So if you provide, let's say, large breakpoint, and we console.log the matches, you can see that whether it's going to return true or false. So let's check it out inside the console here, and you see that it's false. It's not large anymore. You see that you had a value here, the number, but when I increase the screen size here, it will change to true. Let me show you here. Unless I go one more time, and it will change to, okay, I think the value you pass in is not correct. So we need to pass in the breakpoint. So how can we get the dynamic breakpoint? And we're going to use the theme, right? So if you search for theme here, you want to know the whole logic is that you want to know the breakpoint inside that. So for this theme, this is a default theme, right? If you want to have a dark theme, you can do that one too. So what we care most right now is a breakpoint, and we have values, mean up, down, between, only, and as that. So down means the value that you pass in. If up was issue, you're going to return true or false, and down means in between. So up means that what the value that you pass in must be upwards. So if you pass in 60 pixels, it means 60 pixels upwards. This function should return whether true or false by using the media query. So if you are still confused, let me show you how we're going to do it. So what we want is that we want to have access to the theme inside our component so that we can have access to this breakpoint, this function, right? So, and it's pretty easy to use that. And we also want use theme, right, from Material UI. So let's also require use theme here, or is it use theme? Yes. So this one gonna help us to have an instance of the theme that we need inside our project. Okay, so let me see. The use theme must be from not here, but instead the Material UI use theme. Cool. So now let's create an instance of a theme here. So let me comment here and say it's a theme instance. Okay, theme instance. So let me bring it the use matches here. Okay, this one below because I may need that. So let me bring this one here, the match here. Okay, not much. So let me create an instance. Let me assign the value called theme equal to use theme. The whole idea is I want to have an instance of the theme. So this one is for the menu. So let me let's console.log the theme here, and you could see that we have the one we saw in the documentation. Okay, import module okay. Oh, it's from styles, right? The import is wrong. Okay, so let me copy that. And from styles here, sorry, I brought it here. Sorry. Oh, I think, let me see. Yeah, it works. So yeah, as you can see now, if you open it, we have what I showed you in the documentation. We have the breakpoint up, and now that we have this ones inside our component, we can now pass in the prop. So here, if you console log theme.breakpoint, okay, and then sit down, meaning that the function, then you pass in the breakpoint, whether it's small or large. So now this one gonna return true or false, right? So let's check it out. So as you can see here, we have the media query here passed in upwards, right? So here we can now pass this one to our use media query to determine whether that breakpoint here, media query here, has been reached, right? So let me copy this one, right, and then pass the use media query. Where is it? This one. Copy this one and place it here to get the actual value, right? So now if I console.log this one, I'm gonna have true or false. Let's see what we have. Now it's false because this is not smaller screen, but as soon as I decrease the screen size, let's see what we have. Now it's turned to true. So on a smaller screen, we want to display that. Therefore, inside the navbar here, all the things that you don't want to display, right? So one, I want to show the logo. That one is okay, but the links is the problem. I don't want to show, right? So now let's copy the links. So from line number 59, let me see where it ends, and it ends here. So I can copy this ones as that line number 59 here. Let me see where, there we go. I will cut it, and then I'm going to make some conditionals here. I will say that if matches, meaning that if it reaches smaller screen, if matches, right, then I want to display the drawer component, as that. Otherwise, I want to display the default links. I'll paste it. So now let me go ahead and remove the navbar from the drawer from here. Okay, Okay, and let me bring it here, or pass in the props. Where is it? Yeah, let me bring it here. All right, bring it here. Okay, we are passing all the props. That is it. So when I save this one, you see that. Let me refresh the application and let me go one more step. Yeah, by default I think I pass in as false, so let's place as true. By default as true. Okay, as true here. So when I reduce the screen size, let's see what's going to happen here. There we go. We have it. There we go. Did you see that? So let me do it one more time for you to see. So on a large screen it goes away, and on a smaller screen it comes, and then we don't have the links here anymore. So I want to find a way to toggle this one out, and it's going to be pretty easy. All I'm going to do is I want to pass a function, and when I click on that, it's going to toggle that, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Next is when I go to the drawer component here, I want to pass in a couple of props here inside that, right? So where is it? I mean the drawer. Yeah. Now I have access to the set open, so I'm going to change this one to false when I click on the list item, right? So for this list item here, I'll provide on click, and I'll call this one set open drawer, and I'll change it one to false. Yes, so I want to copy this one couple of times on all the list items. On all the list items here, we have this one, paste it here. We have this, also paste it here. Okay, so now when I try again, and when I click, no, by default is false. Oh, because I'm calling it automatically, right? So let me provide some anonymous function here like this. That's why it's turned to false. Okay, so let me provide an anonymous function as that. Just provide some as that. Okay, so let's see. Now when I refresh it, it comes. When I click on menu, it goes away. All right, so one more thing is that I want to display some hamburger icon and remove this one. And when I click on this one, I want to bring in the drawer, and it's pretty easy to also implement. So in the navbar, in the previous video, okay, let me remove this one. We have the menu icon, or if you don't have this one, let me remove the navbar. I don't have it here. Okay, so let's go to the documentation and search for the menu icon, right? So let's search for material icons. Okay, and here let's search for menu. Okay, menu icon here, and I want this, so let me click on that and copy this and come to the navbar and paste the icon here. So what I'm going to do is that let's scroll down and locate where we have the button. I'm also going to check this, where is it, this one, icon button here. I don't want to display it or on a mobile view. Better still, we can display it, but I don't want to display it on a mobile view. Okay, so here we are going to check also that, hey, if it matches, meaning that Rich's smaller screen matches, and if it matches, then I'm going to display the icon button here, right, and place in my menu button here, and place inside my menu button. Sorry, it's called menu icon. What was it? I forgot the name. Yeah, menu icon. And then if it doesn't reach, then I want to display my icon button for my cut icon here. Let me cut it and then place it here. So let me save it. Yeah, so what I'm doing here is that I want to make it dynamically that, hey, if it reaches breakpoint, I want to hide the cut icon and blinks in my menu icon. So let's see the effect now. Okay, so now let's reduce the screen size of the browser as that. There we go. Now you see we have the drawer, we have the hamburger icon. So the last thing is I want to pass in the function on click to the icon here. So here on click, and remember I have the state inside. So on click here, I will say is equal to set open drawer to true, and that is it. Check it out and let's see. Oh, let's go away. Oh, anonymous function, sorry guys, like this. I like to call it that way. So let's refresh it, and there we go. So now when I click on this and I click on hamburger icon, it comes and it goes. So guys, that is how we implement drawer for responsive design